Video today on replacing the ignition switch, the key switch, in a Bolens G14. I got to use this to mow today, so we're going to be doing that. First thing you want to do is disconnect the battery and remove it, which I have done. You could leave the battery in, I suppose, if you wanted to, but due to the size of it and whatnot, it's just easier to remove it, just to get access to the back of the key switch, because you're going to have to remove it from the dash anyway. Before we go any further, I do want to give a shout out to Bolens Parts and Supplies. This is Brian, who has this company. Here you can get all the information you need from it if you want to pause the video. And he has written down here the part number for the key switch, which is 1722275. This will work in a 1253, a 1257, a Bolens H14, and Bolens G14. As I said, we're going to be doing on the G14. And I think it said as long as you have a serial number of 03, sorry about that, 03, and then all of these being 9s, and lower than that, you're okay to use this key switch. As you can see, mine has a 0 after the 3 and no 9s. We're all below that number, so we're good to do it. Here's the model number, 1453. That is a G14. So, yeah, you get a little package in the mail from him. Includes the new key switch, as well as all the little screws and whatnot here to help retain the wiring. Here's the price of the key switch, in case you're wondering. It's $54.99, and that is shipped to the house. I believe he had free shipping on there, so yeah. Yep. So 0 here. Yep. Okay. So I've already, as you can see, taken the liberty of removing the key switch from the dash on the tractor, and I have it sitting here. The issue I was having with this is I was mowing across the street at the neighbors, and I ran out of gas, filled it up, went to start it, and nothing would happen. Upon checking it, I determined that in the start position of turning your key, this top wire here, which runs down to the solenoid on the tractor, which I don't know if you can see it, but it's right down there. You can see the other end of it right here. It wouldn't get voltage all the time in the start position. If I turned it real fast, sometime it would make the starter turn just a hair, and then other times it wouldn't do anything at all. Actually, most of the time it wouldn't do anything at all. Luckily, when I was across the street, I was able to get it to work long enough to get the tractor back over here. So, yeah, what I ended up doing here was marked the outside of the key switch so you can see what is what, basically. B plus is your battery positive lead. That comes from, if you follow this red wire, from your amp meter. Then you have your L, which is the lighting circuit that runs right here to your, I know it's not really that great a light. Let me get this out. So your light switch, the back of it is right there. You have your start, which we said went to the solenoid. And then you also have a wire here, and I marked it as being coming from the regulator. It comes from down that way. I'm not quite sure if that's actually where it comes from, but it would have to charge a battery, so I'm thinking that's what that is. But anyway, we have it marked as regulator. That's just what I have it marked as. It could be something else, but that's just what I'm marking it as. So basically, what we have to do is we have to loosen all these little screws and remove the wires. I've already taken the liberty of turning them loose somewhat, so we can actually, if I can get it to do it, loosen them by hand a little bit and remove them. Easier said than done, right? Of course, when it's on the video. Let me see if I can set these up here. I'm using my cell phone for this, so I don't know how well it's going to get. Maybe I can put you in a good position. Is that going to be okay for you guys? How's that? Pretty good there? Hopefully I don't knock you over. But anyway, so you're going to use a flathead screwdriver, and we're going to be removing each one of these little screws here by loosening them and pulling the wires off, just like that. So you want to have your new key switch ready, and what I've done is I used a marker, permanent marker, and I just went around and marked the same kind of letters on the outside here that I had on this old switch. And the way I found this out is if you look, and I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see it, but in the center of the key switch there's little letters. And you have D as in dog, S as in Sam, B as in battery, C as in cat, and O as in octopus. I know, right? It's the only thing I could think of with an O at the time. But whatever. So you have that. If you look at the key switch on the back here where the wires connect, it's pretty well the same thing. The screws will go into these little slots, and you have little tabs that kind of go over to help hold the wire in place. So I already went ahead, like I said, and I marked this so we know which wire goes where. Best way to do this is to do one wire at a time. That way you're not getting screwed up at all. So being that that Brian gives you new pieces here. I'm trying to do this the best I can, guys. It's the one thing about live doing this, and I don't have editing software. But what I'm doing here is I'm just inserting one of the new screws into the slots there, and we're basically going to take that wire, which was the start position, and I already put it in the wrong thing, so it's good I'm watching what I'm doing here. Put it, whoops, dropped it. Good thing it didn't go anywhere, on the floor anyway. But we already removed the start wire, so I'm just trying to figure out what would be the best way here. Putting this on probably this fashion here, as the thing almost falls again. If I can get it to stay in place, it would be nice. And I have big fingers too, so it's even more difficult to do. Not thinking maybe I should have put these in before I did the video, but here you can see I'm just turning this in some. And what you want to do is stick your wire in underneath here. Okay, so it's like that. And then tighten the screw down. You don't want it real tight, you don't want to strip it out, but you want it snug so it don't move. So there you go, you have your start terminal. And now we're going to go on, continue to do these other ones here. I guess the next one aside of us here, I'm going to set this down. Just set that here. Don't like to leave it hang, but gotta do what you gotta do. I guess we'll do the B plus next. So we're going to be, that's only a one wire here. Remove that a little bit. And then there you can see I got that out. Bring this around. Grab the key switch. And we want B plus, which was over here on this side. So that's going to be going right here. Now I need another one of those little tabs and a screw. Leave that wire go so I can get this thing started. Screw it in a little bit. Yeah, unfortunately, like I said, I don't have any editing software, so This is all going to be live. You're going to have to watch this. You can always fast forward, but all I'm doing is just connecting the wires up to the new key switch here. We have the one from the regulator, which goes over yonder, so we'll loosen that. One of the things I did do to this tractor while I was checking to see what the problem was I actually replaced the positive lead coming into the key switch. And the reason I did that is because the connections were no good. I actually ended up pulling one of the wires out of a butt connector, so I had to replace that. I actually thought at first, well, maybe that was the reason as to why I couldn't start it right. Maybe it jiggled loose or whatever, came loose, but upon inspection and trying to hold the wire in, it didn't make no difference anyway. So stick that in here, tighten it down. You know, I'm just thinking to myself, I had tested this regulator side as being a ground. I don't know if I want to do that. I had gotten a resistance reading between the outer ground portion of this key switch and this one here. And now that I think about that, you probably don't want that. So, because that would ground out if that's actually coming from the regulator. And if this is the regulator, you would think it would have to have continuity or an ohms resistance reading between the positive or B plus part of the wire here of the key switch and this here if it's from the regulator. So I'm not quite sure what that is now. It's hard to do. I'm going to try and do a resistance reading here to make sure it's not actually, let's see if I can do this, put this under this wire. I want to have the red here on this lead. This is hard to do. Whoops. I know you guys aren't going to be able to see this, and I apologize for that, but I got to figure out what this is here. But when I guess I could show you real quick. If you take it from this little thing here that doesn't have like a terminal on it or a tab on it like these others do, this is grounded through the body of the switch. If I do that, hold the red lead there, and then put this black lead on the regulator, what I want to call it, I get, whoops, I was getting resistance here. Yeah, but I don't get it to the other one. So now I'm not sure what's what. Well, you know what? We could test the old switch and see if it was getting continuity on a ground. See, this doesn't have a, as I'm looking at this old switch, it's not grounded to the outside body of it. So that's why I was kind of wondering if it isn't a ground wire. Maybe it's not the regulator, maybe it's an actual ground wire. Let me stick the key in here. And it doesn't matter if it's hooked up or not. I just got to see if I'm supposed to have ground there in the off position or not. So that would be here. And here maybe? Am I getting anything? Can't tell. I wish I had my other meter. I left it in my other truck. I was helping a buddy out working on his tractor. He had a wiring problem as well. Turned out to just be a loose connection. So let's ground it to the body of the switch here. And then check this. And I do have a ground at that switch. So, if that's true, then that must be a ground wire. Maybe not from the regulator, maybe a ground to shut the tractor off. I'm not sure, but because it is grounded, you know what, let me just make sure. In the run position, we're not getting anything from the B+ circuit that would indicate, you know, it should get power and not ground. So let me put this in here. If I can do that. There we go. I didn't see anything there. Let me stick it in here where the wire should go. And put it here. Yeah, I'm not getting anything. Okay, so it would be a grounded circuit. So we're going to hook it up as we had intended on. Move this meter out of the way here. And continue on. This is a new one. I don't know a lot about electrical, guys, but I know the basics, and I knew enough about resistance and stuff to figure out whether or not something should have either in the on position or the off position, whether it's a ground or a power wire. So because it is a ground, we're going to hook it up in the same position because it gets continuity in this new switch in this position as it does the old wire, or the old key switch, sorry. So tighten that down. Then we only have one more, which are the lights. I'm not going to hook that up. Or do I want to hook it up? Might as well. That way we can get this out of here. There's two wires running from the key switch. My guess is one would be for rear lights, one are for headlights. So, this one is circular. I should have replaced that, but so I'm going to have to remove this screw entirely. To get this other wire off. There you go. So that was the end of that. Being held in place anyway. So I'll put the key switch aside. I got to grab another new screw and tab. I put that, wants to fall out. So we're going to screw this in here. Oh, you know what? I can't do that. That's right. That freaking little thing there, that little connector, has to run through here first, which makes it even more difficult to attach. You got to have it just in the right place. Need a third hand. One of you guys want to grab a hold of this thing? There, I dropped that. Luckily I have another one handy here, as long as we don't drop this one. Okay.
Sorry.
Alright.
Noisy.
I really could use one of your guys' hands right now to hold this in place for me. Is it going? Yeah, it's going. Okay, good. So now I can put the other wire from the lights in underneath. And snug her down. Oh, don't have the tab in the right spot here. There we go.